Hey everyone, welcome to this live web class, this webinar with me, Ben Thompson, and Julian Cohen-Hill. I am coming from California, where it is in the morning, and Julian is in England, where it is the late afternoon, early evening. We're happy to have you here. This is the web class, Tinnitus in the Time of Coronavirus, the top 10 tips to help manage your symptoms. Let's introduce the two speakers. Julian, would you like to take the floor first?
Yes, so greetings from London. It's lovely to spread a net of help for tinnitus people right the way around the globe. I am a cranial sacral therapist and a core process psychotherapist based in London, and I've been working with people with tinnitus for about 20 years now. And I actually had tinnitus myself for about 20 years. It's been 18 years since I've led a tinnitus-free life. So I'll tell you more about that as we go. But it's a real pleasure to have you here. And it's a very exciting new endeavor for both of us.
Thanks everyone for being here. Let me give a quick introduction. My name is Ben Thompson, audiologist and tinnitus specialist in California. I first was introduced to tinnitus in my doctorate of audiology degree in San Francisco, California. And for me personally, I had a strong mentor who, and a program that taught tinnitus to us in a very comprehensive way. The program I went to is relatively new, and the designers, the PhD researchers, the teachers, the professors of this program realized that we needed to educate our audiologists and doctors in a more comprehensive way about tinnitus. And for those of you who have seen other doctors, you may have had very little help from those doctors. So our program realized that there is this opportunity to educate audiologists about the comprehensive tinnitus approach. Because of that, I had the leading clinical audiologist and tinnitus specialist from the University of California Hospital in San Francisco. And he is my strongest mentor as a tinnitus professional. He taught us 2 full semesters, which was a total of about 20 weeks of tinnitus, a very deep dive. And for me, I was one of the most engaged students at the time. And I followed that continuously for the next few years, eventually to where I am today. So I've been there. I've been working with tinnitus patients at the University Hospital where I completed my residency program. And then after that, in the past few years, I have been creating puretinnitus.com, and Pure Tinnitus is an online educational resource for individuals where I bring my audiology expertise into easy to implement strategies for you to help with your tinnitus. So that's my personal journey. I have a milder form of tinnitus. I know how it sounds, and I recognize that for me, it fluctuates sometimes. For me, I have never been significantly depressed or significantly down and out because of my tinnitus. I just want to share that with you now. All right, let's get into the first 5 tips here. So number 1 here is to find your soothing sounds. Tinnitus itself can be what we can call a horrible sound, or a sound that we don't want. We don't necessarily welcome it into our body, into our being. So the first tip here is to find your soothing sounds. Now, the way I recommend doing this is make a small, easy goal for yourself, because it's hard sometimes to find the right kinds of sounds to help with your tinnitus. So the soothing sound means that it should have a neutral or a positive emotional response in your body. We will get into the significance about the emotional, auditory, and nervous system and how it all works together. So a soothing sound should be comfortable. Now, how do you find soothing sounds? Well, I want to create a small goal, because when I work with people, sometimes they share that they can't necessarily find the right sound that helps manage their tinnitus during the day or at night when they're trying to sleep. And there's many different sound samples out there that can be helpful for you. So start very small and easy by just finding 3 sounds that can create a soothing, relaxing response for you. And why is this important? So sound therapy is all about finding soothing sounds. there's a neurological effect of sound therapy that happens in our auditory cortex, which long-term has positive effects towards habituation. The easy definition for habituation is training our body and training our mind and our nervous system that the tinnitus is not a threat and it's less and less important over time. When you can train yourself over time to be less focused and less bothered by your tinnitus, typically the sound itself and the loudness improves as well. And people ask me all the time, what is neuroplasticity and what is habituation? Both neuroplasticity and habituation are related to changes in the brain chemistry, changes in the neurons. That's something that takes time to develop. It does not happen overnight, and soothing sounds can help you with that. So if you're taking notes or if you're watching this in the recording, I'm going to share 3 methods of how to find soothing sounds. Before I share 3 recorded collections of sounds, remember that you can find soothing sounds in your environment, perhaps in nature. Going out to a river, that creates a soothing response in our body, hearing the sounds of the river. Going to a beach, same thing. Hearing the sounds of birds in the forest, that creates a soothing, relaxing response coming from our auditory brain and then affecting our body and our nervous system as well. The first resource for how to find your 3 soothing sounds is going to be a smartphone app called Resound Relief. Okay, it's Resound Relief, and it's an app you can find for Android or iPhone. In this app, you can create a custom mix for yourself to find the right kind of sounds that can create even a small soothing response for your body. Just remember that if you can make a small improvement by finding the right soothing sounds, over time, small improvements add up. And if it takes you a few months to make a big improvement with your tinnitus with the sound therapy component, then I know that's worth it for you. And this takes consistency and persistence about implementing sound therapy. The second resource about how to find your soothing sounds would be on YouTube. There's many sound therapy playlists. And if you type in on YouTube, sound therapy for tinnitus, ocean, sound therapy for tinnitus, nature, sound therapy for tinnitus, sleep, you're going to find different kinds of soothing sounds. Typically, those are 30 minutes, 1 hour, even 5-hour noise samples, something that you can put on your phone and just put in the background of the room that you're in while you're working during your day, or you can have it help you fall asleep at night. Or if you have devices, you can stream them, you can connect them from your phone to your devices. And if you have that soothing sound that you find, that can play in the background and it can help you integrate and help you habituate long-term. Okay, the third method for how to find soothing sounds would be through the app called Spotify. This is the most popular audio collection in the world right now, and that's either through a smartphone or through your laptop computer. There's a free version and there's a paid version. Again, you can type in tinnitus sound relief, tinnitus sound therapy. You're going to come up with many types of soothing sounds. Just as a reminder, there's many sounds out there. You do not need to listen to thousands of sounds to find the perfect match for yours. You need to start with just 3 sounds that create a neutral or positive emotional response and stick with those and have them passively a part of your life that can help you. Okay, that's tip number 1, find your soothing sounds. Now, tip number 2 is to learn your mixing point. So the actual mixing point has 2 aspects. There is the soothing sounds that you're playing in your environment, in your room, or via something on your ears that has a certain volume, a level. Then there's the level of your tinnitus. Masking is the wrong way to go when you completely cover your tinnitus for most of your waking hours, because that's not allowing your nervous system, your emotional centers to recognize that the tinnitus is not a threat. So the mixing point means finding the volume between your soothing sounds and your tinnitus, so your brain can still hear your tinnitus in the background, and you can also hear the soothing sounds. That is the mixing point. So trying to find that mixing point when you're using sound therapy is very helpful and is recommended. Now that you've found at least 3 sounds, but just stick with 3. Now that you've found 3 sounds that are helping you habituate to your tinnitus, they're creating positive neuroplasticity. Now we need to train your brain that the tinnitus is not a threat and it is welcome to be there. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to do anything except be this reminder that you have the tinnitus in your body. And I know that's hard because it can be very loud and stressful, but that is what we're doing. Habituation comes from tinnitus retraining therapy. You may have heard this before. This is a model that was created by a researcher called Yastrobov, and is about 20 years old. This is one of the most common strategies and management protocols for tinnitus. If you go see an audiologist in the United States, for example, a tinnitus specialist, they are probably implementing tinnitus retraining therapy, which focuses on sound therapy and habituation and potentially hearing devices as well. Habituation can take 6 to 18 months to train our brain that the tinnitus is no longer a threat. This is not an active process. Just a disclaimer, you cannot force habituation. It has to happen organically and passively in your body. So we want to be able to control the tinnitus, but unfortunately, there is no button, there is no dial to turn it down. We have to indirectly turn it down by focusing on habituation, by focusing on our nervous system and our psychology. And that is the key. And maybe you've already seen some signs with that, but really that is the long-term goal here. Even though habituation can take 6 to 18 months, you are very likely to see improvement within the first few months. And usually that's a sign that you're on the right path. There's another management protocol that comes from the United States military researchers. It's called progressive tinnitus management. And military veterans have a high rate of tinnitus. And in the United States, we have a healthcare system for military veterans, which has millions and millions of dollars of research into tinnitus. Unfortunately, we have not found a pharmaceutical or surgical cure at this time, but we have developed the strategies and the protocols that work for most people. And one of the major, as I was reading through the progressive tinnitus management coursework and course book, some of that I based my group coaching program off of in Pure Tinnitus, that they recommend constant soft level background sounds in your environment are helpful for habituation long term. Now, you do not need to hyper focus and tell yourself, I have to listen to sound therapy continuously all day, every day. That's how I'm going to get help with tinnitus. If that maybe has been your thought process, some people I work with have that thought process. It's not healthy to obsess over it. This should be something that happens in the flow of your life. It's something that you can implement long-term without feeling stressed or anxiety about it. All right, guys. Number 3 tip for how to manage tinnitus during coronavirus is to make a sound therapy plan. Now, I believe making a sound therapy plan is important because there's a high level of trust and confidence when you're basing your tinnitus management, your long-term management plan, off of medical research and what the audiology research community has explained as the most effective treatment for tinnitus. If you're trying to figure this out on the internet yourself, if you are in the online groups and trying to take pieces here and there, it's very overwhelming and it creates a high level of anxiety because we're asking the question, am I doing what I need to be doing or am I just lost? So I believe creating a sound therapy plan for yourself is essential because then you can stay with it. And if you fall off track, you can review your plan and realize, oh, the last week I wasn't following this plan that I laid out for myself for the next 3, 6, 9 months. So, okay, now that's okay. I can be gentle with myself and I can get back into that plan. So let's talk about your sound therapy plan, how you can do it, what you need to do it, when you have to do it, and where you're going to use sound therapy. So how? You're going to play soothing sounds through your phone, your computer speaker, or potentially hearing devices if you have those. What you're going to listen to are your 3 soothing sounds. When you're going to listen to it, this depends on when you're bothered by your tinnitus. Maybe you are bothered in the morning when you wake up. So then you're going to play it in the morning. Maybe you have a hard time falling asleep when you're listening to your tinnitus. So you will play your sound therapy in the evening. Or perhaps during your waking hours during the day, you find yourself getting stuck in these negative thinking patterns and limiting your activities, stopping doing the things you normally love because of your tinnitus. Then it makes sense to listen to soothing sounds for many hours of the day. There is no perfect prescription of sound therapy. There is no recommendation about how many hours you should listen to it that works for every person. So this is where we're giving you the power back, and you can really ask yourself, what makes sense in my life for creating my sound therapy plan? Maybe it's 6 hours a day. Maybe it's just in the mornings. Maybe it's in the mornings and the evenings. Maybe it's when I'm at work and it's a very quiet situation. The sound therapy will help me throughout my workday. Those are questions for you to ask yourself. And just remember, you do not need to use sound therapy continuously for every waking hour because you don't need to obsess over it like that. If it helps you, you're welcome to, but I just wanted to say from a medical perspective, from the research, continuously using sound therapy 24/7, it's not recommended, okay? All right, I see some questions here, which is great. We're going to get to those at the end. Thank you, guys. So where are you going to listen to your sound therapy? Well, particularly in quiet places. That's quite obvious, but we need to address that. Maybe that's when you're at home. Maybe that's when you're by yourself at home. Maybe that is when you're working in your office or when you're trying to fall asleep at night, okay? So we talked about how you can create your plan, what you need to do it, when you're going to listen to sound therapy, your soothing sounds, and then where you're going to use it. Just as a disclaimer, you cannot force habituation. Sound therapy helps your auditory nervous system calm down and realize that tinnitus is not a threat. Even though it feels threatening, it's not actually going to harm you any more than it already is. All right, thank you guys. Number 4, the 4th tip for how to manage tinnitus during coronavirus is to manage the fight or flight response. Now, if you have seen some of Julian's YouTube videos, or if you have researched more about tinnitus yourself, you've probably learned that the psychology and the emotional reactions and responses to your tinnitus have an important part in the whole process. Coming from this, cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the best management techniques, one of the best treatments for tinnitus. So why is this important? Well, you need to be aware of your emotions, and you need to remember that your fight or flight response in your body, the fight or flight response is essentially, there's something in my environment that might cause me pain or it might hurt me. So your body is telling you this signal, which is there to help you of, hey, be aware of this, be alert of this. What is that sound? Is that something that's going to hurt me or my family? And that puts our body into a high alert state. Remember that this fight or flight response is there to protect us. It's coming from within you to try to serve you. But the fight or flight response does not have the intelligence and the awareness to realize that the tinnitus is coming from within your own body, and it's an effect of your stress, other parts of your life, and your auditory system, perhaps some hearing damage as well. It's helpful to label your emotional reactions to tinnitus. As an example, when your fight or flight response is very highly charged and you're feeling angry, it's helpful to say or to write down, I feel angry right now because of my tinnitus. And being able to label that emotion, it helps that emotion come and go with more ease. Also, you can say to yourself, or you can write it down, I am feeling afraid right now of my tinnitus. And when you voice those emotions or when you write them down, either by yourself or with a therapist or a coach, it takes some of the power away from those emotions, and it helps you realize that you, the core of you, is separate from that negative reaction itself. And this may seem very simple, but over time, this can be very effective in helping with habituation and getting us out of some of the negative thinking patterns that can come when we're living with loud ringing in the ears. So finally, there is a relationship between your auditory brain, your limbic system, which is the emotional center of our brain, and your nervous system. Julian's work, in my belief, was very cutting edge in the YouTube world to explain this relationship. Also, tinnitus retraining therapy, this model from Yastrabov in the United States and Europe, was cutting edge by recognizing that tinnitus is not only related to the auditory system, it's influenced by our emotional reactions and by our nervous system or the stress response in our body. That was number 4, manage the fight or flight response. Now, number 5, and my last tip for you guys here in this live web class, is how to filter out negative information. This one, most people don't realize is affecting their tinnitus and their recovery long-term. There's a lot of information out there on the internet. You likely are watching this video because you found either myself or Julian online. And you also likely came into other online tinnitus groups, other information out there. So when you have negative information coming into your psychology, it can affect your confidence in what you're doing, and it can also take you off course for your healthy habituation long term. We've all experienced this in our own lives. Here's a good example. It's the evening. I'm feeling relaxed. I had a long day at work, but I'm feeling relaxed. I just had some dinner and I'm getting ready for bed in the next hour or two. And then my roommate or my friend or my family member turns on the television news, and there's all these loud images and there's talking about fear and talking about coronavirus and talking about presidential elections. And suddenly I feel my intensity, my internal intensity pick up. And even if that television is on for only 5 minutes, they turn it off. And I previously was ready for bed in an hour, but now I feel more awake and my body feels more tense and stressed. That's an example of how negative information can distract me or take me off my course for what I'm doing. Now, for tinnitus, if you are working with a therapist or you're in a healthy support group, or you feel like you have a good plan moving forward that you came up with yourself, that's amazing. You should celebrate that and move forward. But unfortunately, there's many online tinnitus groups that are distracting you from your progress and likely slowing down your progress in real terms. For example, online Facebook communities, when people are posting, hey, there's this article about this alternative treatment for tinnitus and how it cured tinnitus for these people. Or, hey guys, I heard that someone quieted their tinnitus from fasting and they stopped eating for 3 days and then their tinnitus helped. If you're on your habituation course, which is a long-term process, and someone sends this signal of, hey, you can actually cure your tinnitus in a few days or a few weeks by doing this, it can take you off course, and then long-term, it ends up slowing down your progress. That's an example of how negative information can be harmful. So we're trying to limit our negative information that we intake. This could also be in-person tinnitus groups, which are not directed towards a goal of recovery, where individuals are just talking about their symptoms and how bad they are. And the phrase suffering likes company is very relevant here. Of course, it's healthy and it's okay to voice your challenges and to have a community of people support you through that. But at some point, hearing other people's negative stories does not serve you anymore. Additionally, viewing media or being involved in what we call the 24-hour news cycle, that can put your body into a high alert stress response, which indirectly can impact your emotional system, your physical body, your calm, your center, and your tinnitus. Another example about limiting negative information may be through your use of social media. Consider reducing the amount of hours you're using social media, or consider only using social media between the hours of 10 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, keeping the early morning and the late afternoon, evening as time for yourself where you can focus on your own wellness and well-being. As for me, Ben Thompson, I have a website, puretinnitus.com, where you can find more of what I'm offering. Right now, I'm also, similar to Julian, offering private consultation where we would start with one appointment virtually, so you can be anywhere in the world, and we would be able to get into your history. I share my experience working with hearing devices, working as an audiologist, and helping guide people through the process of recovering from tinnitus as well. Additionally, in the past few months, I have started a group coaching program where you would be in a group of people who meet with me via Zoom twice a month. And it's a group of people who are committed and motivated to make the right kind of progress with their tinnitus and be able to ask me questions. So we keep our whole group on track long term, and that's a worthwhile goal for us. That's puretinnitus.com. Well, those are my 5 tips for how to manage tinnitus during coronavirus, and I'm going to now pass it off to my good friend and colleague Julian, who's going to take it off from here.